Wow.
The statistic says that by 2040 or 2050, 50% of all high school graduates will be in Africa. So
Wow.
we have the opposite of what the rest of the world has with an aging population. We have an increasingly young population, and it's getting younger and younger. And so the future of Africa is huge and bright.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started.
20-Minute Leaders is a proud supporter of Make-A-Wish Israel and Tech to Peace, and is in proud collaboration with Secret Chord Ventures, J Ventures, Riverside FM, Fusion VC, Birthright Excel, J Impact, Leap, Google for Startups, and Hippo, and in media partnership with C-Tech. Hello and welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Today I am with Oladosu Teyibo, the co-founder and CEO of Analog Teams. Following Oladosu's studies in information systems at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, Oladosu went to develop the tech hardware company Teyibo Tech. He empowers fellow entrepreneurs through angel investing, an act that has connected him with Black-owned businesses such as Froetry and the Urban Planning Growth and Sustainability Initiative. He believes that consistency and excellent delivery are the mark of greatness, a philosophy he applies to his vision for Analog. I'm excited to hear about your journey, your mission, and your work through Analog Teams. The world is changing, technology and, is definitely, disrupting so many different industries, but it's also disrupting the way that the world works together. Definitely still some disparities on opportunities in this tech field. And it almost feels like sometimes we're creating larger gaps than we're closing them down through tech. But your sort of mission is to do exactly the opposite. And so I'm excited to hear a little bit about your own journey, what Analog Teams is all about. So Oladosu, tell me a little bit about sort of what mission you're on and what is sort of your passion these days.
Yeah, so if I were to speak personally, I would say that I'm on a mission to inspire a generation of people to do their best work. But at Analog, we talk about our mission being to cultivate and advance people and their talents. Because our mission is about the people, less about the, trying to accomplish a specific, monetary goal, or the outcome is about the people that come into Analog. And just like you mentioned, as much as tech is giving us, it is also creating a large disparity between different groups of people. That's actually why we set out to start Analog. My co-founder, Maisha, and I, as well as our co-founder, Yao, we were all in the tech field. I myself and Maisha were in GDIT, General Dynamics. And we decided that we could create a culture and a place that people can do their best work, but an environment that's extremely inclusive. And that's where we believe that people actually are able to operate their best from. So that's why we set out for Analog. What we do, we're recruiters and software developers. So one side of the house handles recruiting for a lot of startups and some large tech companies here in the States. And then the other side does software development for some startups as well.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Okay, sounds great. And so sort of take me back a little bit to the underlying pain point and paint me a picture of the world that we're in that brings this to life, the sort of the need for Analog Teams.
Yeah, it's just the opportunities in technology, right? I think that as we continue to grow, as tech continues to move forward, as AI and the AI comes into play and continues to grow, not having enough underrepresented individuals, specifically Black individuals, in the room, in technology, making decisions, being a part of the solution, can be problematic over a long period of time. And so just having Analog Teams where we have top talent, top Black individuals from all parts of the world, delivering at a high level and gaining access into tech that may have never gained that access before, we're essentially creating a pool of candidates that can go anywhere else in the world and succeed. And so that's really the importance of Analog, is having this place where, again, as I mentioned, people can do their best work, which puts them in position to have a phenomenal career.
Now you're operating sort of geography based, right? So you have active presence in Africa, working with individuals there. How does sort of the operation of this organization look like?
Yeah, so we are about 40 individuals globally. We're in here in the US, I believe we're about 5 or 6, and then there's Kenya, South Africa, Ghana, Zimbabwe. We also have a member in the Netherlands as well, and then one in the UK. So we have in London, but we have quite a large footprint and people in very many different countries, cities, etc. And so we always talk about the importance of everyone coming together for a single value system. Since we are so many different cultures and beliefs, making sure that we're all there for that same mission, in our value sets of trust, passion, accountability, and consistency, and about transparency in our community. So anytime you meet someone from Analog, is actually something that people often say, is that you'll meet some of the greatest people that you've ever met before. Like you'll feel really at home, really friendly. Everyone really cares about what they're doing and are super passionate.
Awesome. Tell me a little bit more about your own journey, sort of leading up to Analog. What sort of prompted you sort of on this entrepreneurial journey, your own background?
Yeah. So once graduating, I graduated from University of Maryland, Baltimore County. And once I graduated, I went, as mentioned, to General Dynamics. It was actually my first position out of university. And I just realized that as I climbed the ladder, as I continued to improve what I'm doing and my own skill set, there'll be less and less people such as myself that look like me in the industry. And when I continued to build, just a lot of the political climate, things that were happening in the world kind of led me into fully taking on the path on my own. So when I left General Dynamics, instead of taking another job, I actually started selling computers. And so
Awesome.
Once I started selling high-end computers to like governments and entities in Nigeria, I had a strong connection there. And so we're building that out. That was just giving me enough revenue. I was calling my cash cow in order to actually take the time and build Analog. So it actually took us 3 years of planning. We went to Nigeria. I stayed in Nigeria for a year, Ghana for a year. For 6 months, Kenya for a year. My co-founder went to Ethiopia, Ghana, Togo, and we actually just went really deep as far as understanding and building roots into the communities and countries, understanding the cultures that we connect with. And so that while I was selling computers, I was just building this entity. And then about 2 years ago, we really hit the ground running with hiring, picking up projects, and really executing the plan that we had put into place beforehand.
So right. So I mean, at the end, you mentioned a lot of the values of Analog Teams about transparency and trust and connectedness. How does this play into sort of an outsourcing model as you partner with tech companies and you provide these services and you yourself are building sort of a culture of a company that is working on a variety of projects? How does this whole thing connect into a coherent model that scales? I believe I read in an interview you gave for Business Insider about sort of the ambition by 2025 to hire 1,000 people to be a part of Analog Teams. So sort of what is the model that you're building here?
Yeah, so it's great that you bring that up. Trust is actually one of the things that we are building into our relationships with all these entities, with the companies that we work with. A lot of times they've never worked with people in Africa, et cetera. So they are a little bit nervous as far as quality, as far as trust, et cetera. And so we really have this open air environment. And once we've partnered with companies, they are starting to see that not only are we just like great partners to have, we work harder, longer, faster, and our quality is at the top of the market. And it's something we preach about, is that
why is
we're going
that?
to show up.
How do you explain that? How do you explain that sort of that feeling that you provide?
Yeah, it's something you have to experience, but I would just say it's to dumb it down, it would be excellent service, right? Just having partners in which you work with and feeling as if they are your they are in your company and they're excelling and they might be better than your team, right? And understand, and it just opens the door. Every partner we've worked with has wanted to expand our footprint in their company, especially in our recruiting services. Just, meeting with one or two of our recruiters, roles that have never been closed before are all of a sudden being closed. All of it, their companies are growing big really quickly. And all of a sudden they're saying, well, can we offset our entire recruiting team to you? Right? Can you hire everyone for us? Because not only do we push, again, it's about people doing their best work. When you create an environment for people to be passionate about what they do, to feel like they're in a place that they can give their best and receive that in return, they come up and they show up, right? Work long hours, and it's not something we're afraid of or we push back on. We're excited to do the work that we do. So it's an excitement. It's passion. Really, I would just call it passion. We're really passionate about being able to do hiring people, changing lives on both scales, right? When we're recruiting, we're hiring people here in companies, and we're watching them flourish in their company, but we're also hiring more recruiters across the board. And so we're seeing this effect double on both sides, and it's just been phenomenal to be a part of.
Fantastic. And sort of take me to the messaging sort of on the US side. So as you're working with companies, sort of what is the positioning of analog teams in respect to market opportunities and development opportunities? How prominent also is sort of the culture that you're building here sort of in the messaging?
Yeah. So our messaging, clear and total, is just recruiting partners, outsource your recruiting. Some people call it recruiting as a service. So it's a very simple methodology. If you want onshore recruiters, people in the United States, we have a team of recruiters that can onboard and embed into your team. And then if you're okay with offshore, it's a little bit cheaper price, of course, just more affordable. So it really works for some of those small startups that don't have the same, funding that other companies do. And
Sure.
then we're able to scale when you have a high, when your recruiting needs go up, when you get that next funding round, you need more recruiters. You're able to utilize your partners that have been working with you. And then also for this economic downturn that has happened, we've also been able to work with our companies to pull back their recruiting certain needs as well. So a lot of that messaging just has to do with being recruiting partners. It's less about us being an African focused or Black focused, but more about being the best recruiters that you can partner with.
And these are the people in analog teams that they're not working for the companies that they're giving services to, right? They're working for analog teams, and then they're providing services for the company that you are working with, right?
Yes, correct. However, because of the way that we structure we have embedded recruiters. So they will essentially work as if they'll have a company email, they'll go to the company meetings, etc. But they do have the support in the background, and they do have some requirements from analog and things to just continue to elevate their skill set, people that they can count on, etc. So they're embedded into the company. They're a partner. They're part of your company. They come to your all hands, your town halls, your scrum calls. But then they also have some assistance in the background to make them just to propel them.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that sort of as you're building trust with these clients, is there different things that you found that were more helpful in creating that trust? Because at the end, for a company to come and take on additional services, especially that are intimate to their company development process, it's not an easy process, I'm sure, for any outsourcing model, whether you're African based or anywhere else in the world. How did you find most effective in creating that trust with clients as you're providing these services and creating that layer of transparency that you're describing here? Because it's great in a conversation, but I imagine sort of as a CEO or as a development leader, I need to really, really trust you and the team in order to want to work with this organization. And I'm curious how you're thinking through that as you're scaling, your client base. So you have to also scale your ability to transmit that message of trust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. This is a phenomenal question. We've been lucky so far with our partners, Connect. who we've worked with. They're an RPO, and we've worked behind them and been able to grow our services through them. And it's just been a phenomenal partnership because they work with so many big names like, Qualcomm, Snapchat, Mission Lane, some other startups, Acorns, etc. And so we've been able to find our way into so many different companies and situations and get our name out there, specifically having this product contract, which has been phenomenal for us. But as you mentioned, as we continue to grow and scale, communicating that has been what we're working on and constantly improving, trying to instill that trust even before you have met us. But having just our track record and seeing the success metrics that we've come, a lot of times I may even offer a 30 days paid service where it's like, just try us out for 30 days and you'll see. And usually once our clients have experienced 30 days of our work, they're begging us, like, please stay on. What else can we do?
Awesome.
What else is great for us? So that's been really helpful as well.
Is this sort of the connection to Africa? Tell me a little bit about that. Is this sort of an understanding that you have that there's sort of this blue ocean of opportunity that is not really tapped into? Sort of what is the motivation leading up to this?
Yeah, I actually listened to your podcast with Adesuwa, the CEO of Arua Capital Management, and she mentioned some really amazing things that I liked. Just as you mentioned, the greenfield of Africa, there is a huge lack of investment, and the entire continent, all 54 countries, are 1.3 billion people.
Wow.
The statistic says that by 2040 or 2050, 50% of all high school graduates will be in Africa. So
wow.
We have the opposite of what the rest of the world has with an aging population. We have an increasingly young population, and it's getting younger and younger. And so the future of Africa is huge and bright. However, there becomes a huge problem if technology, if supply chain management, manufacturing, etc., do not increase in scale to accompany all of these new human beings. And so analog is our first frontier into being able to, one, have a huge reach into Africa, hire many high-level individuals. Most of our people, even though they're recruiters or software engineers, they actually have masters in chemical engineering. We actually have a rocket scientist, literal rocket scientist, who sends me videos of his rockets he's built and on our team. And so being able to cultivate, as mentioned, and advance so many individuals gives us a footprint in Africa, not just for today, but for the next 10, 20, 50 years into the future. And looking at, when we build this company, what do we transform into, right? We will, of course, in order, as the innovator's dilemma says, we're going to have to innovate over and over again. And so we've talked about, transcending into manufacturing, into autonomous vehicles, electricity, so many different issues that we see in Africa that we will eventually solve. And so right now it's about putting our feet down in the land and having that connection with the U.S., having been born here, raised here, and schooled here, for the U.S. to have people that they can trust, right? In Africa, that's been a huge conversation is, the corruption, et cetera. Well, you have people who are, you can touch and feel and actually understand the lay of the land, can take you to these countries, and you can experience actually the trust and the great culture that we've built. And so that's really the inspiration and the thought process of what we're trying to accomplish now.
I love it. That is so cool, and I'm blown away by some of the statistics you mentioned. And it makes perfect sense. What do you get most excited about in your work, in your day to day? What really sort of drives you and excites you?
Yeah, I will sound redundant a little bit, but it really is the people. I work with the most amazing people in the world, and I've grown a million times over, been blown away by just like the effort, the determination, as I mentioned, the passion of people who really work hard. And in a generation of people who want to work less and put in less effort, and yet receive more, we have a group of people who want to put in more effort, who want to work the long hours and put in the time, blowing up my phone in the middle of the night. And I'm like, I need to sleep. But I have to continue to push because they are so adamant about achieving our goal and the lives that we've changed. It's just, it's one of those things that when you set out to change lives and make an impact, when you're actually seeing it happen and, it stops becoming just your vision and it's the vision of the people around you. It just becomes one of the most inspiring things that you can ever be a part of.
I love it. Really, I want to thank you for coming here. And it's a pleasure talking to you about something that I honestly know very little about, and that's exactly why I do this show. And so I'm definitely gonna have to look into more about this continent and about what's happening and how do we bridge this gap, because obviously we're constantly talking about tech shortage around the world, and at the same time people are complaining about this tech shortage and lack of resources. At the same time, we have all these areas which we're not really tapping into, and we're not really creating these bridges that are allowing us to both get better education and better installments of technological infrastructure in these areas. At the same time, we're complaining that we don't have enough in our own geographies in a world that's totally globalized and digitized. So I especially love what you're doing here. Thank you again for the inspiration and for the time and for your great work. I look forward to continue being a fan from the side of Analog Teams, and thank you again.
Thank you for having me. It's much appreciated.
I appreciate it. Thank you.